The man who spent more than $20 billion bringing small businesses onto Walmart is going to tell us the secrets to success today on Driven by Purpose.
This is Driven by Purpose, a show about finding your purpose, building fulfilling careers, and helping people with disabilities live better lives. Hosted by three men who've lived it and are here to help you do the same. Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Clean Logic, a leading bath and skincare company and a true pioneer in creating inclusive workplaces and increasing employment opportunities for people with disabilities.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Driven by Purpose. My name is Evan Rosenblum, along with the co-founder of Clean Logic and the Inspiration Foundation, who is on the road today. Where are you? In Cincinnati, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio? Which part of Ohio are you in, Isaac?
No, it's Columbus, Ohio. So
Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah,
All
Ohio,
right.
They all have their pride in each city, so it is
All right,
Columbus.
man. I know, all right, that's cool. Well, look,
Go
man, I'm glad
Buckeyes.
you were on the show today. Yes. And I'm very excited to bring on today's guest because you have this ability when it comes to the Inspiration Foundation, where you have assembled like the Avengers of like business leaders, thought leaders, amazing people to help build up this foundation, which is dedicated to helping increase jobs, employment for people with disabilities by at least 10%. Where the goal is more than that. But the people that you have managed to bring into this foundation have been really elite, amazing people. And today we're going to meet another one of these amazing, this group of amazing people that you've brought in. Today is a guy who was the senior director of Supplier Inclusion at Walmart for 10 years. A guy who wrote The Grace Effect, an amazing book about leadership. Michael A. Byron joins us today. Michael, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate it. Your deal. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, number one, Isaac has raved about you for a long time, so it's a pleasure to finally have you on the show. He said so many wonderful things about you. Before we get into everything, Senior Director of Supplier Inclusion of Walmart, that is a big title, and Isaac talks about this a lot. Just so we can set the stage for everybody, what is that role exactly? Just so we can set it up for your audience here.
Yeah, great question, Evan. The role essentially of supplier inclusion and development at Walmart really was a group of characters is what I called ourselves. And we were responsible for supporting small and diverse-owned businesses. I was recruited there in 2012 to lead an effort to source more than $20 billion or source $20 billion for women-owned businesses. And so at the same time, I managed the entire supplier inclusion and development program while achieving that goal in actually right at 5 years. We actually exceeded it by $1 billion when it concluded in 5 years. And so from that point, then it was all about elevating the entire program, really working strategically with small businesses to help them grow. Both local and then across the United States. And we even had what I would deem international spend and women-owned businesses that we were supporting as well.
Wow. So Walmart said they set aside $20 billion for this program?
Well, I wouldn't say set aside. Our goal was to spend that amount with folks, right, for our businesses. And that came in way of product and or services. So it was a really Herculean effort by our teams, both the merchandising side and the indirect side of our businesses, legal, marketing, and such, where we work with those teams to think about what that would look like for their businesses, whether they were working with incumbents or when those new opportunities and RFPs came about. We wanted to make sure that that group of small businesses and diverse-owned companies had an opportunity to bid for those businesses. And in many cases, many of them won those businesses. Also, Walmart has a tradition of working with small businesses. So before it became what we deem affectionately Walmartian, they were already sort of doing this in terms of how they work with small businesses. I just came in and began to sort of elevate this program and put the type of processes in place that allowed our teams to support us and support the program in the way that the company desired for it to be supported. And
That's
so
incredible.
it wasn't a hard effort. They were already buying the merchandise. They continued to look for innovation in product and in solution. And the solution side of it was the indirect. So great contractors, construction companies, tech companies, whatever we needed to buy, we had a pretty diverse slate of suppliers to bid for those jobs. And then ultimately, if they were able or approved or got the opportunity, it was to then develop them into the type of supplies that Walmart needed to support its business long term.
Okay, sounds like your job is one of those jobs where you woke up every single morning and were excited to go to work because you were doing amazing things.
Indeed, absolutely.
In addition to that, I got to ask, like, are there a couple of examples of some businesses or some people that you work with that stand out as like shining examples of success that stick with you to this day?
Yeah, there are a lot of them. I don't know that I'll mention their names per se here, but there are several that I could point to. I think I might have shared with Isaac. I have a box right above my desk. It's called my love box, right? And so, in the days when I felt tough, and it's not an easy job because you don't have a decision in this process. Well, all you have is influence and trust and credibility that has to be built when you're asking a merchant or a procurement person to consider another supplier, right? And so what that was that me being a business person and a merchant and operations leader for many years, I understood small businesses and I knew what the barriers to success would be. But I also knew that a corporation like Walmart or any corporation, if they put their mind to it, they can help these companies succeed. And the way that we did that and created success, and there are a lot of them that benefited from this, is by what we would call a joint business plan. So it's essentially what Walmart or any corporation would have with the largest companies in the world, the P&Gs, you name it. And it was really just sitting down to understand what their needs were and what Walmart's needs were. And then in the center of that is the customer and how we're going to support the customer. And when you do that, that creates growth. And it creates really a sustainable relationship over a period of time. There are many suppliers that were there at the company long before I came. But once we got into this sort of strategy conversation, and I was able to help influence the business to sit down with them to understand what else they could do, then it became more of an, I'd say, a amenable relationship, if you will, where we came together and said, look, here's what we need to be able to take on another 1,000 stores. And
Right.
then they would tell us what they needed from a supplier and vice versa. And so it worked really well. Like I said, there are a lot of companies out there, many of them, they know who they are. And I'm pretty proud of them. But when I talk about that box, I received so many letters and handwritten letters and emails from people over the years talking about the help that my team and I were able to give them, as
That's
well
so
as
awesome.
internal stakeholders who were, maybe not champions when I started there, but who are now champions today in that space.
It's
Well,
amazing.
I would like to jump in here a little bit just because I think, Michael, you've got a great story in your career, but I think one of your great stories is where you grew up, where you came from, what molded Michael. I'd love to just get a little bit about the story of Michael Byron from New York and how that shaped you and the work that you do, because a lot of the work that what we've talked about and why we come together, it's about the underserved community, fighting for the underdog. Where did this all come from? So talk to us a little bit about your history and your journey of how you got here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Isaac, for that question. And it all started back in Brooklyn, New York, the Bedford-Stuyvesant section of Brooklyn, New York. And as I was getting prepared to jump on to this, I thought, am I going to talk about that or not? But so Isaac asked, so I'm going to talk about it. Well, I was in public school at my first sort of foray into retail. My uncle owned a luncheonette in the community, well known. He was really just a pioneer, like a lot of men and women who owned their small businesses during that time growing up. I must have been 8 years old, but I worked for my uncle for lunch because I hated the school lunch. So I would go to his luncheonette. I could walk from my school to his luncheonette.
What kind of
And
food did he serve?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
What kind of food did he serve?
Oh, like hamburgers, fish, chicken, pound cake, coconut
Okay.
cake. I mean, ice cream. He had the whole lot. But, as an entrepreneur would think, he thought about what else could he do. So he built a grocery shelf inside this luncheonette. And that was my job to stock that grocery shelf. And that grocery shelf at the time had, green beans, rice, things of that nature. And then it also had detergent. So it had two different sections. And I had to stock that shelf on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so, as I think about it, growing up single mom, my mom had to pay for that lunch, right? And so I knew what she was having to pay at the end of the week. And my uncle also knew it. So he made me work. And then when my mother came to settle up, it was far less than what she thought it should be because I had already worked for the food. So I was kind of contributing at 7 and 8 years old, right?
That's
And
awesome.
so, growing up, had lots of opportunities, raised by a village of great people. My church is a heavy influence. My pastor kept me working as a teenager every summer, and in the fall, because, he just didn't want us young men to be idle. So I got a work ethic from my mom, my uncle, even later on, my dad. And, this retail, when I talk about that, I'm thinking to myself, I would have never thought about retail had I not had the experience that I did, even with my uncle. What I understood from him was how to take care of the customers in the community. And if you do that, they take care of you. And so he was successful for a lot of years. A lot of people depended on his food. He served multiple generations. And he did it all with kindness and firmness, right? So he didn't let people come in and take advantage or tear up or act ridiculous or swear in his restaurant. And people respected that. And he only had to say it once. And that's how it was. And so that's why I knew that I didn't care where you were at. If you took care of yours, it would take care of you. And so, I kind of got that really thinking about community and wanting to be supportive in that way, just from those early beginnings.
First off, amazing that you were aware of that, the finances and economics of all of that when you were 7, 8 years old. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then to realize that, and then to have that support, like you were saying, from the community and from your pastor and all of that, it sounds like the support that you got from everybody was so instrumental into your growth and your trajectory. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not. You're absolutely right. They set me up for success, even though I didn't know what success truly would look like, beyond Brooklyn, right? And today, some of those lessons learned, and that's in my book too. That's why I wrote it, The Grace Effect from Brooklyn to Boise. Not ever realizing I had a map on the wall as a kid. I knew where Boise was geographically, but I never thought I would live there and all the other places that I've lived. But Brooklyn set me up for that. My uncle, my aunt, my village, I would say, they set me up for that system. And there was no fear, trepidation in going anywhere. And my mother always said, in order to win friends, you have to show yourself friendly. So I just went for it with that, and being the best person I could be, and always being true to self and authentic. And I think that's what people appreciated most about me throughout my career.
So how did you end up ultimately crossing paths with Walmart?
As I said, they recruited me from my, I worked for 3 companies. I called it almost 2, but 3 companies in my adult life. And they recruited me for this particular role after seeing the success that I'd had in another company. However, it's all about relationships, right? So the boss that I had at the company before I went to Walmart. And so while he was there, he was, recruiting me. And I was like, I'm good. I'm going to stay here. Sort of a company man. I'd already spent multiple years and decades. But I went ahead and took the chance to go to Bentonville. And it was one of the greatest parts of my career. I've had lots of great highs and lows, but this one was a pretty good thing for me to do. And what a platform that you wind up with when you are at a company, the world's largest retailer. I mean, it's amazing what it still boggles my mind today, the amount of zeros.
Yeah.
So even after a decade, I still was just, blown away by the impact that we were able to make as a company, and then me personally leading the effort that I led.
So I've got a question for you. So if someone's listening to this right now and they are a small business, a minority-owned business, and they are figuring out, okay, how do we get on the radar of a big company like Walmart? We've got a good product, we're doing a good thing, we've got a good thing going on here, but we've got to figure out how to get to the next level. What's your advice to a company like that?
Well, I always had a thing where I said, if you want to get a meeting at any retailer, but Walmart, let's say, you need to do at least 100 hours of preparation work, right? I mean, you need to understand the customer, understand the business model of a company. Chances are you probably know someone that is already working with Walmart as a supplier. So you need to do your homework. And that's something that I'd always stress, because believe it or not, lots of folks just come up with it's my grandmother's recipe, and, think that that's the motivation for a merchant to take something on. While the stories are wonderful and they're very important, but also, what will the product do? How will the customer respond? How will you help the customer understand that this is a value that they needed, or if it's a solution to a tech problem we're having, et cetera, how are you going to be able to demonstrate that? And so, that 100 hours of preparation for a 30-minute meeting is critically important. There are lots of resources out there that are interconnected with corporations like Walmart and many others that we personally supported. And it was all in the name of development and helping people ready themselves. And so much of my role, and I would say probably about 70% of my role I spent internally, and about 30%, my team and I were out across the United States, speaking at events, I would say sponsoring, hosting, things like this, webinars, we call them impromptu TED Talks, sitting on panels, etc. And, rolling up our sleeves. So we didn't just sponsor or write a check. We actually was part of the work and part of what an organization was trying to advance for those entrepreneurs. And most of that was done too, not necessarily where we're hoping we find some diamonds in the rough that could work with Walmart, right, at scale and build their businesses. But more importantly, just giving them the know-how and the knowledge and transferring what we know that's been a successful formula for small businesses. We just imparted that wisdom, and that was just something that was part of the job.
Well, Michael, I gotta say, we can create an episode on just best ways to prepare for Walmart, for emerging brands. And I think everybody, just from hearing you, I think can tell you're a humbled person. And, I think what's amazing, like Evan said, is you wake up every day, changing people's lives. I think that's so amazing. But I think one thing that I think is really even more amazing is we were able to team up with you, your post Walmart career. You had just retired when we connected. So talk to us a little bit about, your retirement and what post Walmart looked like. You wrote a book, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But I think what I think is so important is you've taken this experience, you're a man of purpose, and would love to just, what was your goal when you left Walmart, and why are you choosing to work with a nonprofit organization like Inspiration Foundation when I know when we talked first, you definitely had a lot of opportunities, and you're one just trying to enjoy retirement, but also.
You're saying why would you take on the headache of Isaac Shapiro? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's a good way to say that. I don't mind that. I don't mind it.
I'm just kidding.
So yeah, Michael, talk to us a little bit about just post Walmart and where you're going with that, because you're just starting that career.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that question. And I think post Walmart, and even before I left Walmart, my 2 years before I left, I was recruited to work at this think tank in New York called the Conference Board. And it's essentially an organization that's a trusted advisor for what's ahead for corporate America. And inside that organization, they have what they call councils. And so I was a member of that organization where I led the Supplier Engagement and Leadership Council. And it's a council of my peers, if you will, from Fortune companies. And so today, this is 6 years in that I've been doing this now. So I had a nice little springboard off into retirement, if you will, but light lifting, right? I have a great team that I work with. They're wonderful people there. But most importantly, it allowed me to continue to pour into my peers. Because, very often people would always say, oh, boy, here's Mr. Walmart. People would, they thought I should be singing and shining and blowing my own tuba, right? But, I had the same issues they had inside their corporations, working in culture, trying to create champions, trying to build trust, trying to build a credibility one supplier at a time. Same effort, just a bigger, platform is what I used to tell people. And so in doing that work, getting this opportunity to be leading this think tank was just a wonderful sort of segue for me in my third act, where I can continue to pour into my peers because they're facing those very same challenges I faced when I first started, navigating a corporation, creating champions, building trust. How do you get face time? How do you really truly advocate for people? And then understanding that they're business people first. They're not just a manager or director or vice president of this thing. It's part of the business, and it has to be built into the business objectives in order to be successful. So there's that part of it. So now I get introduced to Isaac, and we get to talking about the Inspiration Foundation, which was right down my sort of line because I worked or served as a board member at an organization that supported people with disabilities back in Arkansas for 7 years. And it was one of my greatest opportunities that I'd ever received, working and watching the clients flourish in that space.
Oh, that's
right?
awesome.
And then, I get to thinking about my own family. I had an aunt who lost her sight early on in life. And I watched her maneuver. I watched her go to work every day, cook, clean. Her house was like she had a housekeeper in it, but it was her. But she just never allowed that to be a deterrent. And I applauded the people who gave her the opportunity to teach Braille for almost 40 years in Florida. And self-sufficient she was, really, right? And so when I think about what Inspiration Foundation stands for, it's just really about, again, another underrepresented, underserved group of talent that we need to tap into. And so when this mission came about,
100%.
10% increase, how can we do it? Isaac, I shared with him about a seal that I created or I shouldn't say but the team at Walmart created, just an idea we had for women-owned businesses during the goal that I talked about earlier. And what we realized is that we couldn't execute the seal. We needed partnerships and relationships to help us create an impact with the seal, just not have it for sake, right? And that's exactly what we did with one of the advocate organizations for women-owned businesses. We gifted that seal to them. They took it worldwide, quite frankly. And, you can look on most products today or business letterhead, and you'll see that women-owned logo, which was created in a meeting room in Walmart with about 10 or 12 of us sitting around the table trying to determine how can we draw attention to women-owned businesses, which was helping our goal at the same time, which is why we came up with it. And so when, I got a chance to talk with Isaac about the work that he's doing, I just, my mind just went back to that time. And I thought, well, here it is again. We're going to get a group of people around the table. We're going to figure this out. And we're going to figure out what kind of partnerships and relationships we need to advance this. Not just for show, but for real impact, right? In a way that we would be able to measure it, tell the stories behind it, because that's the one thing that I recall Walmart being really good at amongst a lot of things, and that was storytelling. because that creates and inspires others to do more when you tell stories, especially the people that are being impacted telling their stories. And so this work is underway. I'm excited about what we're doing with the Inspiration Foundation. And, I think you said it best. When I wake up in the morning, I think about serving. That's, that's the greatest gift that anyone could have, is be able to serve other people. Because certainly, you heard me from the beginning, there were people lifting me. They served me, even though as young as I was, I didn't even completely understood what the village was until I got later in life, and realized that, the talks, the conversations, the telling my mom that I left the block, that was all to keep Michael intact, so that I could go on and be sitting here today talking to you guys about, purpose driven work and servant leadership.
I mean, what a fulfilling kind of work also. And by the way, now I get it. Isaac, you talk about Michael, because Michael has been there and done that when it comes to getting his seal from the room into the world.
It was a perfect marriage when because we were introduced as, hey, you might know Michael, he could help you, from a Walmart standpoint. And we started talking, it was like, oh, wow, this is actually an amazing, situation where I want to do a seal. So it really has been such an important piece to be able to have someone that's been through it, done it. And then even when we started talking about this seal, if you remember last year, we did the Dining in the Dark.
Yep.
We ended up, passing it through the First Lady of Pennsylvania and her team, because they're out there promoting hiring people with disabilities, and they wanted to use this seal. And it was one of those things that I was able to also say, hey, we're working with Michael Byron, who helped create the Women's Own seal when he was at Walmart. And it really has, just been able to give us that credibility as we're launching a seal, because there is a lot of them out there. And we're really trying to, bring it to that level of a Women's Own seal. So it's just, he's been able to create that beacon for us that we do believe. And it's not just like, oh, it's another seal, we're going to go out and do it. And we really do believe that we're going to be the seal that people will see for hiring people with disabilities.
Yeah, but I want to point something out here, because both things are like so well intentioned. The women's seal and the disability seal. Like, you say these things and it's like, in theory, everybody should just jump on board and champion it, because there's just so, who wouldn't want to champion these things? They're such great things. But the reality of the world is there's so much red tape and there's so many things that get in the way of these things becoming a reality. And it takes real fighters, real tough people to actually drive these things and push these things through. And you guys are like two of the nicest people ever. But I know the fact that you've already gotten one to fruition means that, like, when it comes to, like, when the rubber hits the road, you guys know how to get things done. And that is such an important component. And it's like, even though you like, the purpose is so important, and like your heart is in the right place, it's important. It's also such a skill to know how to navigate these crazy, the bureaucracy, and like how to get something, how to drive it through it, especially when it gets close to the end. I know how tough it can be. The closer you get to the finish line, it feels like the harder it can be to like get these things done. Michael, tell us about that when it comes to like the women's seal, like that, getting it over the hump, getting it done. What's it like closing it, getting it? And then how great was it when you finally saw that seal like on shelves? What was that feeling like?
Yeah, it was a great feeling for the team and myself and Walmart. I mean, because, again, it was an idea. We were just trying to think of ways, how can we expedite this sourcing goal we have here? We're trying to use every lever we could to achieve that $20 billion. And as I said, we exceeded it by $1 billion.
That's awesome.
Whether the seal helped it a little bit, we knew it would help. And we knew it was about recognition. And we knew we wanted individuals to know that we were associated with it, right? Even though we knew we couldn't be the architects or executioners, I should say, of it. That's where good partnerships come into play. And we had the perfect partner in one of these women advocate organizations, in which I had been a member of for many years in both companies that I worked with prior to coming to Walmart. And so it was rewarding. And even today, I was speaking to someone a couple of weeks ago in a forum just like this, a webinar, and I happened to be in Costco. And somebody said, "Ooh, Costco, you wasn't in Sam's Club?" I said, well, I found the same item in Sam's Club, but it was bedding sheets. And I turned the package over, and before I even saw the little sort of tearaway stack that they displayed, I didn't even look at that. I just looked at the sheets, wanted to see a thread count turnover, women on logo. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
we did this back in 2017, 18. And here we are, almost a decade, and I'm still seeing this logo even after being, detached from Walmart. I'm still seeing it, and in fact, I look for it at times, But I can tell you the joy of there was a small pretzel company, chip company, that I brought on, and I can say the name of it. It was called Perfection Snacks, and the first time I flew on American Airlines, not the first time, but flying on American Airlines, they served that snack. And I saw that logo on the back of that snack. And when I saw it, I go, wow, women on. So what did I do? As soon as I got off the flight and got back to Bentonville, I called that person. I called her.
Yes.
And subsequently, she was certified by the Advocate organization. I didn't know who she was, but I thought, boy, if American Airlines can have this product, so could Walmart. So guess what? We got her into Walmart, right? And so, it was a badge of honor. Number one, it generated interest from my colleagues and all of us because, again, like we're trying to do at Inspiration Foundation, it's going to be a seal of approval. So a company has to meet a certain criteria in order to get that seal. It's not just handed out lightly. So when I saw that seal and American Airlines, I thought, well, I knew my colleague at American Airlines. Just 1-2 phone calls before I knew it, I met this young woman, and the rest is history. And there's been a lot of stories like that. So when you talk about impact and how you felt, you always kind of feel proud. And I think my chest goes out just a little bit, not much, but just a little bit when I see that seal.
It'll go out bigger when 10 years from now we're seeing Inspiration logo.
Can I tell you something?
Everywhere. So let's remember this. 10 years from now, we're gonna have you on the podcast telling the same story.
1,000,000%. A million. I know we got to wrap up, but I just want to say something really fast. Like I have my daughter is severely disabled. She has cerebral palsy. That that thing in the background, that's hers. She's nonverbal. She's in a chair. But like every day we are deep in the disability community every single day. And I meet amazing people every single day, amazing families, and people and families that are underestimated by society. Right. And I feel like the same value that that seal has, where you see that the women's seal, where you see that and you're like, oh, that's amazing. There's a sense of pride. I would see a seal like the Inspiration Foundation seal, where it's like this company is hiring people with disabilities. I would go out of my way to support companies like that. And that's why I think what you guys are doing with the Inspiration Foundation is so important, because there are so many people with disabilities. 80% of people with disabilities cannot get work. That is incredible. That is so disappointing. And what you guys are doing to try and help people with disabilities get employment is so important. And I support this so much. And I commend you guys for what you're doing. And I can't wait to see the seal out there in the real world. I can't wait to support the businesses that have the seal. And I just want to say thank you to both of you for the important and tremendous work that you are doing. So before we get out of here, real quick, Michael, tell people how to find you, how to get your book, where to find you on social media, all that good stuff.
Oh, thank you for that, Evan. So you can find me on Instagram at Entrepreneur Advocate. And appropriately, I named myself that, Entrepreneur Advocate. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well. And you can find my book, The Grace Effect from Brooklyn to Boise, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Amazing. Isaac, keep up the good work, man. And I hope you make it back from Ohio in one piece. You've been traveling a lot. You're holding up good, though. Isaac's been like crisscrossing the country, man. He is working hard.
Trust me, I know.
Working hard.
That's what the mission's all about, right?
Hey, man.
Just having fun.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, well, Michael, again, thank you for coming on.
Of course.
You've been a great advocate, great partner in what we've been doing, and I'm so grateful. And again, that story, I got it in my head already. I'm seeing the 10-year podcast where we're talking about this same story, but all the companies that are doing it. So thanks for all you're doing for us and everything you've been doing for our industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you both for having me. And thank you, Fred, for joining. And I'll talk to you guys soon. And hopefully before 10 years, really see some activity around this Inspiration Seal. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Remember, if you like today's show, you want to continue to support Driven by Purpose, like, subscribe, share, comment, tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend. That's how we spread the word around here. And we will see you next time on Driven by Purpose. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.